shout at me again, and this ends," the waitress said quietly, her voice steady, even as every table in the restaurant fell silent. And the billionaire, who had been barking orders moments earlier, froze mid-sentence, his hand still raised as if power alone could bend the room to his will, because no one had ever spoken to him that way before. Not in boardrooms, not in private jets, and certainly not in a small, worn-down diner on the edge of the city where she worked double shifts to keep the lights on at home. And that single moment, heavy with tension, was where everything began to change. Because this waitress was not reckless or rude. She was exhausted, carrying the weight of overdue bills, a sick parent, and the quiet humiliation of being treated as invisible every single day. And when she had approached his table earlier with polite professionalism, only to be met with impatience, sharp words, and public embarrassment, something inside her finally drew a line, not out of anger but out of dignity. And as the billionaire stared at her, the room waiting for him to explode or dismiss her the way powerful men always did, his reaction stunned everyone. Because instead of shouting back, he lowered his voice, asked her name, and apologized, not with performative charm but with a sincerity that unsettled him as much as it surprised her. And as the evening unfolded, the story behind both of them slowly surfaced through small, unguarded exchanges, revealing that the man whose wealth insulated him from consequences was drowning in loneliness, pressure, and a lifetime of being valued only for what he could provide, while the woman standing before him had learned resilience the hard way, through sacrifice and survival without safety nets. And in that unexpected collision of worlds, the power dynamic shifted from dominance to understanding, from entitlement to humility. And as other patrons returned to their meals, unaware that a quiet transformation was taking place, the billionaire listened as the waitress spoke about boundaries, respect, and the cost of swallowing mistreatment just to survive. Words no one had ever dared say to him before, and for the first time in years he felt seen not as an empire but as a man who had lost his way. And when the night ended, it did not conclude with grand gestures or instant resolutions, but with a profound change that lingered long after the plates were cleared, because he left that diner carrying more than a receipt. He carried the realization that power without compassion was emptiness, and she returned to work the next day, not suddenly, wealthy or free of struggle, but standing a little taller, knowing that dignity could exist even in the most fragile circumstances, and that sometimes the bravest act is not raising your voice but calmly refusing to be diminished. A lesson that stayed with both of them, reshaping their paths in ways neither could have imagined, proving that the smallest moments, when met with courage and humanity, can leave the deepest and most lasting marks. In the days that followed, the diner returned to its usual rhythm of clinking plates and tired conversations. Yet nothing felt the same for her, because the moment she had spoken up replayed in her mind during every shift, not as fear but as a quiet reminder that she was still allowed to have boundaries even when life left her little choice. And then one evening, just as she was wiping down the counter and preparing herself for another long night, the door opened and he walked in again, not with an entourage or impatience, but alone, dressed simply, choosing the same booth as before, and the air tightened instantly, because she did not know whether this visit would undo everything or deepen it. Yet when she approached the table, he stood up out of respect, thanked her for coming over, and asked how her day had been, a simple question that carried more weight than any apology. And as they spoke, slowly and honestly, he shared the truth he had never admitted to anyone, that the shouting was never about food or service, but about control, about a life where every second was measured by expectations and performance, where kindness had become a liability and silence the only refuge. And she listened not as an employee but as a human being, recognizing pain without excusing behavior. And that balance, firm yet compassionate, began to change him more than years of success ever had. And over time their conversations grew deeper, touching on loss, pressure, and the cost of becoming hardened just to survive, while she revealed the sacrifices she made daily, the dreams, postponed the strength it took to show up with a calm smile even when her world felt like it was breaking. And through this unlikely connection, both learned that dignity was not granted by status or wealth, but chosen in moments of truth. And when he finally left that night, promising nothing and asking for nothing, there was no spectacle, only a shared understanding that something real had shifted, something that neither power nor poverty could erase. And as she watched the door close behind him, she realized that standing up for herself had not ended her job or her future. but had quietly rewritten how she saw her own worth, setting into motion a change that would continue to unfold in ways neither of them yet understood. And in the end, the change revealed itself not through headlines or dramatic gestures, but through steady, deliberate actions that reshaped both of their lives in ways that felt almost invisible to the outside world, because the billionaire began showing up differently everywhere he went, speaking with intention, listening before reacting, choosing restraint over dominance, carrying with him the echo of a quiet voice that had once drawn a line and refused to be erased. While the waitress continued her long shifts with the same responsibilities and challenges, yet with a renewed sense of self that no longer bent under humiliation. And months later, when their paths crossed again, it was not as symbols of wealth and labor, but as two people who had learned something essential from one another. That respect is not demanded but earned. That resilience is born in moments where courage meets compassion, and that a single boundary, calmly stated and firmly held, can change the course of a life. And as they parted that final time with nothing more than a nod and a shared understanding, the lesson remained lingering far beyond that small diner, that humanity does not reveal itself in how loudly one can command a room, but in how willing one is to listen when challenged. And sometimes the moment that threatens to end everything is the very moment that teaches us who we are meant to become.